Have you ever noticed sometimes the more you care, the worse things get? It's a strange paradox. You try harder, grip tighter, worry more, and somehow peace drifts further away. What if the problem isn't your effort, but your attachment to the outcome? In today's episode, we explore a radical shift in perspective. That freedom begins not when life gets easier, but when you stop needing it to. Buddhist wisdom doesn't teach you to stop caring, it teaches you to stop clinging. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now let's begin the practice of release. Have you ever noticed how much of your suffering begins not with what's happening, but with how much you care about it happening exactly your way? You don't just want things to go well, you need them to. You need them to align, to approve, to respond on time, to mirror your effort, to match your standards. And when they don't, it's not just disappointment, it's identity collapse. You question your worth, your path, your choices, because somewhere deep inside, you've equated caring with control, and now you're suffocating under the pressure of both. This is the quiet madness of our times, over-caring. Caring about people who don't care back, caring about outcomes you cannot bend, caring about how strangers interpret your silence, caring about algorithms, first impressions, and the emotional weather of everyone in the room but yourself. You've been told caring is compassion, but when it becomes compulsive, it's a trap. The Buddha called it craving, thirsting, grasping, not just for pleasure, but for certainty, for control, for life to behave. And what happens when it doesn't? You suffer. Because you're too invested in an idea of how things should be instead of seeing them as they are. There's a deeper kind of caring, the kind that watches without clinging, that loves without binding, that shows up without needing to own the outcome. But you can't access it until you step back from the frantic ego-fed caring that says, if I stop trying so hard, everything will fall apart. Here's the truth, everything is already falling apart. That's what impermanence means. The Buddhist path doesn't fix life. It teaches you how to meet life as it dissolves, with grace. Take a moment. Think about the last time you spiraled into anxiety. Was it really the situation? Or was it the story you wrapped around it? The pressure you put on yourself to handle it perfectly, respond immediately, prove your value, or protect an image. You carry the weight of invisible expectations, most of which you didn't even choose. Cultural scripts, childhood conditioning, internalized hustle, unspoken social rules, and then you wonder why you're tired before the day even begins. Let me offer you this. You don't owe your suffering to anyone. Just because you can feel everything doesn't mean you have to cling to everything. Imagine a version of yourself who shows up fully but holds things lightly, who cares deeply but doesn't collapse when things shift. That's not apathy, that's mature compassion. The kind that sees clearly, loves freely, and walks away when needed, without resentment. But you can't get there until you confront the identity addiction buried inside your care. The belief that your worth is measured by your performance, your planning, your perfection. This is the ego's trick. If you care enough, you'll control it. If you control it, you'll be safe. If you're safe, you'll be loved. And so you care too much. About texts, glances, likes, moods, results. You care yourself into exhaustion. You lose sleep over conversations that never even happened. You script your future around ghosts of potential conflict, and you call this being responsible. But the Dharma whispers something different. It says, you are not responsible for how life unfolds. You are responsible for how you meet it. Not passive, not lazy, just awake. Because real presence doesn't require stress, real commitment doesn't require collapse. You can be engaged and still at peace. You can show up without burning out. It begins by admitting the deeper fear. If I stop caring, who am I? That question is the gateway, because the you, who must prove and hustle and manage every emotion in the room, that's not the real you. That's a performance, a protection, a coping strategy from a younger version of you who thought peace had to be earned. So breathe. You don't have to care about everything. You don't have to fix what isn't yours. You don't have to react just because your anxiety wants to feel useful. You can let go. You can be here. You can care, and still let things be. And when you stop clinging so tightly to the wheel, something incredible happens. Life starts to drive itself. What if peace isn't something you find, but something that appears the moment you release what weighs you down? Have you ever wondered why you feel tired even on the days when nothing dramatic happens? It's a strange kind of heaviness, not the result of effort, but of accumulation. Of old stories you've told yourself for years, of pressures that never belonged to you, of emotional debts you've carried like interest-bearing loans, compounding quietly in the background. The truth is, most of the weight you carry isn't physical, it's psychological, and it's invisible until it breaks you. But Buddhism whispers a quiet truth that many of us forget. Letting go isn't giving up. It's the choice to stop suffering. Think of it like this. You've been climbing a mountain for years, not realizing your backpack is full of bricks, not gold, not tools, just bricks. Shame, perfectionism, fear of disappointing others, obsession with being understood. Now ask yourself, did you ever stop to check what you were carrying? Or did you just assume it was necessary? The Buddha once said, you only lose what you cling to. And most of us are clinging to illusions. We think we need to carry everyone's expectations, hold together every broken thing, keep chasing every what if. But we don't. That's the trap. We believe that if we care a little more, control a little harder, hold on a little longer, everything will finally be okay. But the paradox is that everything becomes okay only when we stop needing it to be. Letting go is a form of wisdom. It's the maturity to say, I don't need to fix this right now. I don't need to be everything for everyone. I don't need to carry this anymore. It's like loosening a clenched fist that's forgotten how to open. There's a classic story in Zen. A monk carries a woman across a river, an act of compassion forbidden by his order. Hours later, his fellow monk says, I can't believe you carried her. The first monk replies, I put her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her? This is us. We carry past arguments into today. We carry old roles into new relationships. We carry failure, shame, and imaginary futures into the present, and then wonder why we feel so heavy. But the pain isn't in the memory, it's in the resistance. It's in the replay. It's in the unwillingness to let it be part of the past. So here's a radical challenge. Let it go before it finishes ruining your day. What would your life look like if you didn't have to carry the burden of being perfect anymore? If you didn't need to control how others saw you? If you weren't constantly replaying scenes in your head, trying to rewrite them? Maybe you were never meant to carry this much. Maybe you were taught that stress means responsibility, that worrying means you care. But what if it just means you're trapped? Stillness, real peace, isn't about removing all problems. It's about removing your grip on what doesn't need you. You don't need to hold on so tightly. You can be present without being possessed by the moment. And ironically, when you let go of control, you gain influence. Why? Because people can feel it. A calm person changes the energy in a room more than a loud one. A peaceful presence says, I'm here but I'm not consumed. That's power, not the kind that dominates, the kind that liberates. Try it for one day. Stop chasing what doesn't want to be caught. Stop solving what doesn't need fixing. Stop over-explaining to people who don't want to understand. And instead, return to your breath. Return to yourself. Because the moment you stop clinging, you start floating. The moment you set something down, your hands become free to hold what truly matters. And if you forget this tomorrow, that's okay. Peace is not perfection. It's the daily decision to choose lightness over pressure, presence over performance, freedom over fear. Let go. Not because you don't care, but because you care too much about what's real. When you stop holding everything so tightly, everything falls into place. There's a moment, small and quiet, where fear enters. It starts as a whisper. What if they leave? What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? And if you're not mindful, that whisper becomes your entire reality. Fear rarely walks in shouting. It sneaks in dressed as preparation, as responsibility, as just being realistic. But in truth, it is the mind rehearsing pain that hasn't happened and might never happen. Buddhist wisdom doesn't say fear is bad. It says fear is just a thought. And thoughts are not facts. But most of us don't treat fear that way. We treat it like a prophet. We listen, we believe, we obey. And slowly, fear becomes the lens through which we see everything. Every possibility becomes a risk. Every silence a judgment. Every change a danger. The fear loop goes like this. A thought triggers anxiety. Anxiety creates physical tension. That tension makes the thought feel real. And the mind, eager to solve, begins scanning for danger, which produces more thoughts, more anxiety, more tension. And suddenly, you're living in a reality built not from facts, but from fear-fueled fiction. How many dreams have died in that loop? How many moments of joy have you skipped because you're too busy preparing for disaster? Now ask, has fear ever actually kept you safe, or has it just made you smaller? Buddhist practice invites you to observe fear instead of merging with it, to name it, but not become it. When fear arises, don't fight it, but don't follow it either. Sit with it like you'd sit with a nervous child. Listen, but don't give it the keys to your life. Try this. The next time fear surfaces, pause. Say internally, here's fear. Label it gently. Name the body sensation, the tight chest, the quickened breath, the shallow mind. Then breathe into it. Not to fix it, just to be with it. Watch it move, watch it change, watch it leave. Because fear doesn't need to be conquered, it just needs to be understood. There's a story in Zen of a young monk meditating in a forest when a demon appears. The monk doesn't run, he bows, he says, "Welcome, I see you." And just like that, the demon vanishes. That's the power of awareness. Fear cannot survive in full presence. Still, the modern mind doesn't like this answer. It wants techniques, guarantees, blueprints. It wants to defeat fear, not sit beside it. But sitting beside it, that's where the transformation happens. You realize fear is not your enemy, it's a messenger. It's telling you where you're still attached, where you're still trying to control, where you still believe your safety comes from certainty. So here's the paradox. When you stop running from fear, it loses its power. It fades like a dream at dawn. Fear says you must be sure before you act. But the Dharma says, act with awareness, even if you're unsure. That's what courage really is, not absence of fear, but a refusal to be ruled by it. And when you live from that place, you don't become reckless, you become real. You no longer need to hide behind fake confidence or calculated performances. You can say, yes, I'm scared and I'm still here. That's raw, beautiful, human. So ask yourself in this moment, is my next move being chosen by truth or by fear pretending to be logic? Because your soul doesn't want comfort, it wants freedom. And freedom begins when you stop confusing fear with truth. You can break the loop. You already have the tool, its presence. And with each breath, each pause, each moment of mindful observation, you return, not to safety, but to reality. And reality, no matter how uncertain, is always kinder than the fear fantasy your mind builds when it's left alone. Let fear visit, but don't make it your roommate. Let it speak, but don't hand it the mic. You are not your fear. You are the awareness that holds it, and when you stop mistaking the storm for the sky, peace begins to return. Slowly, steadily, unshakably. We've all heard it before. You are not your thoughts. It's become a kind of modern mantra, printed on coffee mugs and whispered in yoga classes. But very few actually live it, because it's not easy. When a thought arises, especially a painful one, it doesn't knock politely. It storms in, pulls you by the collar, and insists, I am the truth. And most of us believe it, immediately, automatically, without question. That's the trap, that's the spell. Not the thought itself, but your identification with it. Buddhism teaches, thoughts are like clouds passing through the sky of your awareness. But if you forget you're the sky, you'll chase every cloud, try to catch it, fix it, fight it. And in doing so, you forget who you really are. Have you noticed? A single thought can ruin your entire day. One judgment, one memory, one imagined future. That's how powerful the mind is when you believe everything it says. But let's take a step back. Where is the thought? Can you touch it, hold it, frame it? No, it's not an object, it's an event, a flicker of electricity across a field of awareness. And yet, it dictates your mood, your decisions, your self-worth. Now here's the truth most people aren't ready for. The mind isn't trying to help you peaceful, it's trying to help you survive. That's its job. It scans for danger, it repeats old patterns, it reminds you of where you were hurt, rejected, abandoned. And while that kept you safe in childhood, it now keeps you stuck. You're not broken, you're patterned. And the moment you stop fusing with every thought is the moment you start living with freedom. Imagine walking into a movie theater. The film starts playing and you get lost in it. You laugh, you cry, you grip the edge of your seat. Then suddenly, you remember, you're in a seat, watching. Not inside the screen. That's what mindfulness does. It reminds you, you are not the movie, you are the one watching. The projector is your mind, and the script, half memory, half imagination. When you sit in stillness and simply observe, without judging, without grabbing, you begin to notice something strange. The thoughts keep coming, but they start losing their grip. You no longer become every story. You begin to hear the narrator's voice and say, "Oh, there it is again." The voice that says you're not doing enough. The voice that whispers they'll leave you. The one that warns you're falling behind. It's not your enemy, but it's not your truth either. It's just a voice, and once you recognize it, you stop needing to obey it. Now this doesn't mean thoughts go away. It means your relationship to them changes. Like waves on the ocean, they still rise and fall, but you become the ocean, not the wave. That's liberation. Some will ask, but what about positive thoughts? Shouldn't I try to think better ones? And here's the gentle paradox. Chasing positive thoughts is just another form of attachment. Peace isn't the presence of happy thoughts. It's the absence of reactivity. When you're truly free, both praise and criticism pass through you. You don't cling to compliments. You don't crumble at insults. You become, in the words of the Dhammapada, like a rock that remains unmoved by wind, rain, or applause. And from that still center, you can finally act, not react, speak, not perform, feel, not collapse. You return to presence. And in presence, thoughts lose their urgency. You don't need to solve them. You just let them pass. That's the art of non-identification. You'll know you're living it when someone upsets you, and instead of spiraling, you breathe. When anxiety rises, and instead of panicking, you watch it gently. When the mind screams, "This is the end," and your heart whispers, "This is just a moment." Let the clouds come. Let them go. Don't chase them. Don't curse them. And don't carve your identity into them. You are not what you think. You are the one who sees. And that seeing, that awareness, that's where freedom lives. We imagine peace is waiting at the end of some long, spiritual road. That if we meditate enough, earn enough, love enough, someday we'll arrive at a place where nothing bothers us. But that belief, though comforting, is just another trap. A delay disguised as wisdom. Because peace isn't something we find out there. It's something we build, brick by brick, breath by breath. And it starts not with some grand gesture, but with the tiniest of choices. Waking up and resisting the urge to check your phone. Pausing before reacting to your partner's tone. Choosing to sit with discomfort instead of numbing it with noise. These aren't small acts. They are sacred ones. Each one says, "Today I choose presence over panic." Buddhism doesn't sell you a fantasy of eternal calm. It teaches you to face the storm without drowning in it. And what you discover over time is this. Peace isn't a constant. It's a commitment, a practice, a vow you renew daily. But here's the beautiful truth. Every time you pause, every time you breathe with awareness, every time you let go of the need to fix, explain, control, you are practicing peace. You're training the nervous system to rest, even in the noise. You're reprogramming the mind to trust, even in uncertainty. And you begin to realize, peace isn't about what's happening around you. It's about what's no longer happening inside you. No more silent battles with imagined futures. No more obsessive rewinds of conversations. No more internal courtrooms where you're both judge and defendant. Instead, there's space, stillness, a quiet strength that doesn't need to prove anything. So how do you build it? Start small, a 5-minute morning ritual, a walk without music, a breath before each meal. These aren't spiritual luxuries, they're survival tools, because a mind that never pauses becomes a mind that forgets its own clarity, and a heart that never softens becomes a heart that forgets how to open. You don't need to meditate for hours. You don't need to chant in a cave. You need consistency. You need intimacy with the present, and the courage to begin again each day. That's where real peace lives, not in control, but in rhythm. Not in perfection, but in return. So ask yourself, what does peace look like for you? Is it silence, slowness, simplicity? Good. Now carve out space for it. Protect it like your life depends on it, because in many ways, it does. The world will keep spinning, people will keep demanding, thoughts will keep rising. But your job isn't to escape that. Your job is to remember, you can be still even while everything else moves. There's a Zen saying, you should sit in meditation for 20 minutes every day, unless you're too busy. Then you should sit for an hour. Why? Because the busier we are, the more we forget what we're even rushing toward. The louder life gets, the more we mistake noise for necessity. Peace brings you back. It reminds you, not everything requires a reaction. Not every fire needs your fuel. Not every thought needs your belief. Let that be your practice. Let that be your path. And when the chaos rises, as it always will, you'll notice something beautiful. You don't rise with it. You remain, grounded, aware, alive. Because peace is no longer a place you're trying to reach. It's the place you now live from. Maybe peace isn't found at the end of effort, but in the soft exhale between one breath and the next. So let go, not as an escape, but as a return to this moment, to your breath, to yourself. Because when you stop caring about controlling life, life finally starts to meet you with grace.